Thank you so much, Gail. And hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jayme Adelson-Goldstein, as you heard. And it's really a great pleasure and honor to be here with you today. And I'm really looking forward to this particular topic because we have so much background in this. And so it makes it really a wonderful opportunity for us to get together and talk about what we're doing, what we're thinking, but also maybe to look at some of the different skills that go into scaffolding and differentiation and think maybe refining some of that. Just so you know, even though I belie my years, I've been in adult ed for over 44 years, and I treasure this career and I treasure the people I work with. So without much ado, there's a bio if you want to read more about me. I'd like to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, to go to this Mentimeter. You can do it with the QR code, or you can do it with menti.com, and that's the join code. But when I show you the slide, you'll see the QR code again. And I'm asking you to think, what identities, strengths, or challenges do adult learners bring to our classes? And you'll notice I'm trying really hard not to use the possessive our learners. I really fight it because it's what I grew up saying all the time. So if you don't hear me saying your learners or our learners, you understand that I'm very much hoping to consistently foster agency and not try to take anything from our learners, especially at this time. So what identity, strengths, or challenges do adult learners bring to our classes? We're creating a word cloud about that because that's at the heart of the scaffolding and differentiating that we do in our classes. So let's see what's coming up. So I see that in writ large, actually, I can use the, let me also just go ahead and take I think we're okay with the QR code. So we have diversity and resilience and persistence and courage coming to the fore, but you can also see how many different, I see a lot of benefits and not a whole lot of deficit, which is a wonderful way to think about it. And for those of you, I know, again, a lot of this will be Coles to Newcastle for you. I know how skilled and pretty glorious Atlas's PD programs have been, and how the teachers, how you all have embraced that over the years. But I think it's never a bad thing to think about what we have at our core. Who is it that we're serving, so that when we are planning and differentiating and scaffolding, that's front and center at all times. I always like to say, teach the learner, not the book. So I do see that trauma has come up, which would be absolutely appropriate and would be missed if it were not there. But I'm also seeing unity and time management. Well, time management might be one of the challenges, actually, now that I'm thinking about that, but it certainly is for me. Work-life balance, many different skills. And you could keep going and going and going, and you certainly can. This part of the Menti will stay open for you, but let's move on to talk about what we're doing with all this background knowledge that we have. So throughout our session today, you'll have the chance to distinguish between guided supports and choice-driven instructional routines and consider the merits of both. You'll also examine the connection between scaffolds, differentiation, learner voice, choice, and autonomy. Great little vocabulary lexical set there, and celebrate an instructional design that intentionally scaffolds, differentiates, and fosters learner agency. So those are basically the agenda items for today. And the goal then is for you to imagine how these elements would work best in your own lesson design. And I have no problem using your in that case, because in this case, we are designing. So scaffolds and differentiation, what's the diff? Let's start with that, just that question. I'm going to provide you with a note-taking tool if you'd like it, a little meta moment. I'm going to show you what the note-taking tool is, and I believe that they're putting that in the chat. Yes, Gail's put it in the chat. This is what it looks like. So there's this intermediate and advanced literacy and language skills note taking. And then there's this for beginning. The green is the beginning level note taking. And then the, I don't want to call it ochre. Did they used to call it goldenrod? The goldenrod piece is for our beginning literacy level students, how you might want to think about note taking. You have two amazing people, one of whom is speaking as I speak, who discussed in 2010 the importance of note taking. And so this is something that I think is a real important thing for us to consider when we ask students to take notes. Yes, we can scaffold here, as I have at the top on the white. We can scaffold with a Cornell Notes style. Notice that I've added the doodles also so that students can draw. And then the checklist is a really great way for students to intentionally focus on the sequence of information coming in. And then, of course, for the literacy level student, having them focus on the images that are coming in and working with the vocabulary. So let's go back and I will start my micro lecture. So scaffolding helps students bridge the gap between what they know and what they need to know, and it supports them as they develop new skills and breaks down unfamiliar skills into smaller, easily accessible ideas. So there's a good piece of text. We've got a Minnesota bridge up there. And this is one way to think about scaffolding, the bridging that we do for learners between the known and the unknown and how to get them from point A to point B. Oops. Here's another way to think about scaffolding, the smaller steps. So if we present a visual about this, you can see that the gentleman on the left is getting closer to the top because he's had smaller steps. And the gentleman on the right is struggling a little bit because it's harder to get from one step to the next because the risers are so tall. So scaffolds can break down the steps in a complex task, making the process more manageable. And then we can also think about scaffolding in terms of our lesson design. It's the modifications we make while designing and teaching lessons. So sometimes it's happening in real time. And it's what allows all students to be successful. And you'll notice that all students are, that's the target here, all students. And I'm checking the chat to make sure that no questions are coming in. And we want them to all be successful in learning the same content. So that's scaffolding. Now let's think about differentiation. On the other hand, differentiation refers to the idea of modifying instruction to meet a student's individual needs and learning preferences. I don't say learning styles, but in some cases, some learners do prefer to work alone than to work in a team. Now we know that they still are going to need, especially in the outside world, team skills for the workplace, but we can differentiate with the type of grouping that we do to honor the learning preference once in a while, or maybe more than once in a while. If we want to think about differentiation in I think, a very pragmatic way, we can think of it in the way that Carol Tomlinson does, which is through content, process, and product. So if we differentiate with the topics or focus, or differentiate how learners work with the same content. I apologize for the fuzzy type. I think somehow I doubled up on that, but we're differentiating on topics or focus. We're differentiating on how learners work with the same content, or we're differentiating their proof of learning. So the content, process, and product are three ways we can think about adjusting what we do for our learners. This very often happens way ahead of time because we've done a lot of needs assessment, and we know, for example, in a multi-level class that we're going to have to differentiate how learners work with the same content. We're probably going to have to differentiate their proof of learning. It's also the choice that comes up with differentiating topics or focus is a wonderful choice and a wonderful way to differentiate. It does sometimes translate, it can translate into more work for the teacher in terms of providing different opportunities for those topics or focus. Okay. So in a picture way, you could look at this and see that our content, rights and responsibilities, there are different rights, right? So we have, freedom to protest, to assemble, freedom to vote, freedom of speech. Those are three possibilities that we could say to the learners, pick one of those. And then the process would be to research on that and whatever the question is for the students. So some of the students are looking on the computer. One student is using the phone with QR codes. And then in the front, we have the difference in product. So one pair is making a poster and another woman is writing something. So this is really showing a differentiated classroom, thanks to ChatGPT. So I'd like to ask you, is this instruction designed to scaffold, differentiate, do neither, or both? So I'm going to ask you to work in the chat right now. I'd like you to read. I'll read it for you for anyone who's having a little challenge, but I'd like you to read, examine the illustration, and decide, based on what you just heard in that mini lecture, is the routine going on in this classroom scaffolding, differentiation, neither, or both? In a math class, students are working on solving ratio problems. The teacher offers a worked example and a number line for anyone who wants it. So I'm going to look at, see what people are saying. Okay, I am seeing that a number, I would say it's about 50-50 split between scaffolding and both. Would someone who wrote both tell me where the differentiation is?
I see differentiation because there are multiple different ways to get to the meat of the solution of 3 to 4. So there's visual, there's color coding, there is a number line if somebody's using that. So there are multiple different ways.
Okay. And what constitutes scaffolding? I see a lot of you are talking about scaffolding. I see that pictures, but that pictures would be, this is a more general comment. I know I love how your examples and images have been carefully chosen for your audience. Oh, thank you, Steph. Yes, that is something that I really was trying for. Okay, so Ralu, let me share with you where there's scaffolding. So the teacher has thought ahead of time about how to allow everyone in the class to be successful. That is the definition in this case. She's or he has materials that support the learners achieving the same goal with the same content. So working the worked example, modeling, but a worked example where it's almost like a think aloud, that is what's happening with those the apples and bananas. Actually, that's the worked example. So that worked example is a scaffold. The number line for anyone who wants it is a scaffold. I appreciate the idea of the differentiation being because there are different ways of looking at it, by that there's a visual, but that visual is actually part of her worked example. So the learners don't actually have choice in the content. They don't actually have choice or options in the process. There is the number line, but the number line is a support. And they don't really have any differentiation in the product. So while I think you could make an argument for differentiation, I would say that this is scaffolding, that this is strongly coming through as scaffolding. Ralu, does that help? I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Okay, great. Let's look at another. Isn't it fun? Okay, same question. Is this instruction designed to scaffold, differentiate, do neither, or do both? In an intermediate ESL class, learners interview partners about weekend plans using a worksheet that includes 5 sample questions and 2 lines with question stems for learners to write their own. A question stem would be, will you go to ... Okay, so the question stems are going to be reinforcing future. Okay, so everyone reports back using future tense sentences, and they're going to interview each other using this worksheet. So I see Elaine has put differentiate. I see scaffolding. I see scaffolding. I do always feel like Miss Mary in Romper Room reading with my magic mirror. Okay, I guess I just dated myself because probably more than half of you don't know Miss Mary. Scaffolding as it starts the students off with the sample sentences to work from, scaffold, differentiation. Okay, Nikki, let me ask you, are you seeing differentiation because they could write their own sentence?
Yes, I was in my mind thinking that maybe some that had greater language didn't have to use those pre-made questions, and instead they created their own.
Okay, so I like that you went there, because that's the kind of overarching thinking you do, and it's great. I was going for this being a strongly scaffolded lesson. So Danielle is saying they can write simple or more complex sentences. Absolutely, the teacher hasn't identified that. Differentiation of some could do one sentence, another could do 5 sentences. Okay, they are being asked to question each other with those 5 sample questions, and then they do have those 2 lines. Everyone reports back using the future tense sentences based on what they said. So there's no what they heard in their interview. So I think you could make a very strong argument for the differentiation in allowing learners to do whatever they could do with it, but it isn't set up for differentiation. It isn't specifically, there's no indication in this that the teacher has said in any way, this is, if you want to challenge, do this. So what I'd ask you to look at is how intentional you as exquisite teachers would absolutely make that clear. But I'm asking you to look at the routine as it's written. So Tracy, yeah, it could be differentiation if they could type or write, but that's not what the routine is saying. So let's take the routine at face value, because when you go to do this next task, you're gonna have wonderful conversations. I know that. But when you go to your next task, this is going to be some of it. You're going to project on what you would do. And I say yay for that. But it'll be interesting to see how this comes up, because remember, it's so easy in our lives to say everything does everything. But in order for everything to do everything, there has to be a lot of intention behind it. And that's probably the most exhausting thing we can do for ourselves. So let me get this Menti. So what I'm doing with this Menti right now is I'm turning it into a survey, which means that you will be able to access, that's the word I'm looking for. You'll be able to access this in Teams. And let me explain what you will do there. So in your breakout rooms, which will be random, so you could have people from all different contexts, I would ask you to first introduce yourselves really briefly. So this is not an opportunity to talk about where you scaffold or where you differentiate. It's really just, hi, I am, and I teach, or whatever else you do if you're not in the classroom. Then in your teams, I'd like you to number off. You're going to be in groups of 5 to 6. You're going to have a lot of breakout rooms. And then you're going to assign these tasks. So number 1 is going to share the screen with the Menti survey slides, and you will click the team's response. Number 2 is going to help the group reach consensus on the team's response. Number 3 through 6, if there's only 5, that's fine, respond to my questions afterwards. So there'll only be one person in your group who will have to type in the chat. You can all type if you want to, but I just want to make sure that you take turns on that part. So the goal is for you to do very much what I just did a worked example with you on. Oh God, that was a hard sentence. So you're going to read and briefly discuss each routine in the Menti. And then you'll reach consensus on whether it illustrates scaffolding S, differentiation D, both B, or neither N. And don't forget to click your team's response, number 2, I'm number 1, because it won't show up afterwards. This is a fabulous way, if you are working online, to have learners do something in teams that you can then view anonymously as a whole class. I'm asking you to try to complete at least 5 of the 7 routines. I'm going to do a little time check for myself right now just to see where we are in terms of how many minutes I'm going to give you. Okay, it doesn't help if I don't. Let me do it one more time. There we go. Oh, perfect. Very perfect. Okay, so you're going to have 15 minutes. Yes, perfect. You're going to have 15 minutes in your breakout rooms. Liddy has chatted out this, what do I want to say? She's chatted out the instructions, so it should be there still for you. But you may want to take a quick note on just the assignments before you get into your task. So you are just doing these 3 tasks with this content. And I'm going to show you what the content will look like. So you'll see on the left over here, I probably should be doing my fancy schmancy annotating. Okay, over here on the left, you'll see the example of the routine. Here is your question. And then here is what you will mark, whether it's scaffolding, differentiation, neither, or both. Let me be very careful about clearing all those drawings because you know how that goes. So I'm going to take us back here for a minute. It's the same Menti that you were on. If you are not able to share screen for whatever reason, you can all be on your phones and you can just pick one person to click. If you're really having a struggle with this for whatever reason, come back into the main room and I'll take you to the slides that I have at the end of this slide deck. So some thumbs up and thumbs down time. I'm going to check us. If you wouldn't mind turning on your cameras for a moment, or at least giving me thumbs up. Yes or no, you work independently on this task. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. No. Yes, well, Daniel, the code will come right out, I promise. I think Lydia put the link. Yeah, the answer is no. That's right. You are not working independently, okay? Question number 2, are there assigned roles? Thank you. I see some people just nodding their head. I'm watching you, that's good. All right. Question number 3, do you have 5 minutes to do this task? Okay, thank you, Michelle. That was a very obvious no. That was a really good turn of the arm. Okay, and my very last question to you is, are you looking forward to this? Oh, please give me a thumbs up. Not sure. No, not sure. Oh, no. Okay. I mean, I was taking the temperature of the room. All right, we're going to put you into your breakout rooms. Remember, really, really, really sure, really sure to introduce yourselves briefly. And then time will start as soon as you are in your rooms.
Okay, I'm going to open the rooms now. All right, I still have a few people to place. Let's see. Let me move you into some different rooms.
The sharing option is not open.
The sharing option.
Yes. Like we cannot project whatever that
Oh,
in
okay.
the
Thank you.
I just fixed that, Gail. I just changed
Oh,
it.
Okay,
thank you very
thank you.
much, Liddy. Thanks for letting me know
Can
that.
somebody put me back? I don't know where I was.
Um,
I'm lost in the hallway. I don't
let's see, who am I
remember.
speaking? Who is this?
This is Ralu.
Oh, okay. Let's see now. I think I'm not able to do anything with you at this point.
Oh, really? Okay. No,
No,
I
but
can
let me
join.
see
It
where
says
you
join
are.
a
And
breakout room. Let me see. I can just
were
join
you, does it give
number
you an
2.
option to request?
Yes, it does.
Okay, good.
Okay, I will go in there. Thank you.
Okay.
So welcome back. I appreciate your resilience in the light of all the joys technology can bring. And I know you supported each other, and I know that Liddy was out there, and I was certainly trying as well. The issue was, just for future reference, if you should try this with learners, that if the person sharing hadn't done word cloud, they were being held captive and not able to move forward. But it was easily solved, and so now I'm able to show you what you thought about here. So can someone unmic and tell me what the majority of people thought this demonstrated? That learners working on persuasive writing, the instructor asked them to choose a topic and submit either a written or audio draft. What did people mostly think this was?
Differentiation.
Yeah, so we have 25 people that think it's differentiation, but there's also an important group that thought it was scaffolding and another 3 groups that thought it was both. So from the group that thought it was both, would you in the chat indicate where you see scaffolding? And also the scaffolding group, would you let us know where you saw scaffolding? So this is going to number 3 through 6, who might have then had that information and would be willing to share. There's definitely differentiation. I will hold up differentiation loud and proud, because we have choice of topic, content, differentiating on content. We have choice of product, written or audio draft. So we are differentiating for learners' choice. I'm looking at the meeting chat to see if anyone has indicated anything in here. Might be taking a little while, and that's no problem. We'll come back to this so that we can see what the thoughts were around scaffolding. For this one, is this an example? Before hands-on workplace task, the instructor does a demonstration, then posts QR codes that link to short how-to clips. So in the group that I went in, the point was, well, we don't really have enough information here. We don't know what's going on. But I hopefully clarified that what we're seeing here is an instructor doing an example and then providing additional examples, but through a QR code. So it's technology, but there's nothing that gets them to it other than a QR code. There's no differentiation in that process. So is this an example of scaffolding, differentiation, neither or both? So I can see that 17 of the groups thought that it was scaffolding, which I would definitely agree with. A few thought it was neither, and that would be interesting to know why. Does providing a choice mean scaffolding, writing versus verbal? No, providing a choice generally means differentiating, because it's a choice of whether you're going to do it this way or this way. Scaffolding would be, I'm going to give you a frame, a paragraph frame for your writing, and I'm going to give you, for your audio, I'm going to give you a link to a tutorial that tells you how to use this tool. So scaffolding, you think of scaffolding as the supports that you're giving learners. Typically, if you have differentiation, typically you have both in the best of all possible worlds, because you do provide some kind of scaffolding for the differentiation. But you can have scaffolding without differentiation. It's essentially a support. And, honestly, nobody from the scaffolding and differentiation organization, the SD Inc., will come to your classroom and mark you down. But it's, I think, important to know that scaffolding is something that we are doing daily. And differentiation may not happen in that way if we don't have a distinct multi-level setup in our classes. Okay.
Jayme, could I say something for a sec?
Please do.
What we were struggling with was, could scaffolding mean the procedure that the student is going to follow is clearly laid out? And differentiation means it can be clear, you can have a clearly laid out procedure and then have to choose between A and B.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it, Robert. Yes. So the scaffolding is the supports, the ladder that help, the steps that help them get there. So it could be a checklist. It could be a series of QR codes that help them, you know, they may or may not want to use that scaffold. That's different. That, you know, but if you are putting very clear choices, A or B or C, then you are definitely providing differentiation. Now, there is also scaffolds that are differentiated in a way so that when you're presenting something, as I think one of you mentioned, you know, there were pictures with the apples and the bananas, and there were words, and there was, for you, I differentiated my scaffolds. So I gave you an example that was printed. I gave you an example that was visual. I gave you an example that was oral. So, but you didn't really participate in the differentiation. Everybody was, it was to get you to where you needed to be. So it was more my differentiating my presentation than you participating in differentiation, which I think is putting too fine a point on it. So let's move forward. Robert, that was a great way of putting it.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So what you're saying then is when it is the teacher presentation that is differentiated, that's not true differentiation in the way we're looking at it today.
Exactly. I would say it's differentiating the scaffolding, but it's not, it's the content isn't being changed.
Yes, exactly.
The process is being changed in the product. Yeah. Thank you.
The student's work doesn't change. They don't have an option of how to do the work.
And if we look at that initial definition of scaffolding, one of the initial definitions, it's providing support so that everyone can achieve the same task. Everyone is successful in that content.
Differently.
Yeah. Possibly different. Yeah. But their product is the same. Their content is the same for them. So here's Sure. Thank you. Students graph data from a real world source. They choose between 3 data sets, and they create a graph to analyze patterns. So I see that most of you thought it was differentiation. A few of you thought it was neither. And 2 of you thought it was scaffolding. So the fact that they're choosing the data sets and working with them, but they're all creating a graph, so the outcome is the same. It's the content that's different. They get to choose which data set they want to work with. Their process is the same. They're graphing data from a real world source, but it doesn't say how the teacher didn't necessarily give them graphic organizers. I mean, I hope she or he did, or they, you know, so that's part of it. Is when you look at a routine in your textbook or something you've done all the time, are you thinking about scaffolding? Are you thinking about differentiation? This is more what we're going towards. It looks like in this case for the high set, providing a glossary, sentence frame, citing evidence, and graphic organizer, all 3 strong scaffolds that came through loud and clear. I see that there's still some of you that are thinking there's nothing here, but that glossary and that sentence frame and that graphic organizer are supports for the learners to be able to analyze that science passage. This is one of my all-time favorite mentees is with the dots. And I love that so many of you, 17 of the teams, got that this is neither. The students are watching a 5-minute TED Talk and writing a short summary, identifying 3 key ideas and 2 supporting details. Does that mean that this routine can't be differentiated? Does it mean that it can't be scaffolded? Absolutely not. This could be scaffolded. This could be differentiated, but as written, it is not. So what's the lesson or the takeaway that I would love for you to think about? Okay, I'll go back to 3 for you. Sorry, Amy, I didn't see that. what's the takeaway from this not being either scaffolding or differentiated? What do you think the value of my having you look at this and come to that conclusion? And if you want to say, anybody wants to say from one of the groups why you saw scaffolding in it, I'd love it. Amber's saying our learners like some sort of support, sentence frames, choices, etc. Bruce, we don't know that they chose which type of graph to produce. It doesn't say that. I think it can come from two directions. Like I can have students read a text, but also play the audio. They don't have a choice per se, but I'm giving them the content in two ways. Yes. The final products might not be as strong as they could be. Exactly, Liddy. There's no scaffolding yet. So a lot of times we look at something that is cool like this, TED Talks, cool. And we want, oh, my students have to do summaries, great. But what is it going to take for all the learners to succeed in that task? It's going to take scaffolding. And very often the materials will not provide either enough or the right type for your learners. So this is one of the ways that we want to make sure we work with this. And I'm looking for the scaffolding. There's Liddy saying there's no scaffolding yet. Yes. Let me go back real fast to 3 because we got a request for the right answer, which, we all know as adults, we like the right answer. Number 3. So the answer here would be that from my perspective, and of course you can all make counterclaims and arguments as long as you cite evidence, that this is differentiation because they are choosing their content. They're choosing the data sets that they are going to graph. So that means the teacher has to provide those. And then they're creating a graph. And yes, it doesn't say what type of graph, but I think that may be what I should have said in there to make it crystal clear, creating a bar graph to analyze patterns. So if I just specified the graph. But if you didn't see that the graph was specified, then you might be thinking that, and there's no scaffolds in this at all. Doesn't mention any scaffolds. I mean, maybe the teacher gives them the data sets, but it doesn't say that. Okay. And then learners review unit vocabulary by moving to different table stations. They match word and picture cards. They complete sentences with target words, and they make a digital slide for one of the target words. The teacher models at each station, and a QR code takes learners to a demo as well. Okay, so this one's funny because you are seeing both, but I was being a teeny bit tricky here because, okay, Melissa, I'll answer your question in a second. I was being a teeny bit tricky here because they move to the different table stations. They don't go to the table station they need. So the teacher has differentiated the approaches, but they're all participating in those differentiated approaches. And I see where you could make an argument for that, but it's, I don't see any scaffolding in this. Oh, that's not true. There's the models. Never mind, I do see that. It's early for me, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm gonna, thank you, Tammy. Yes, ambiguity is the name of the game. How would a teacher differentiate a TED Talk? Read the script versus watch and listen? Yes. The scaffolding would be to allow the students to have the closed captions, potentially, if you're talking about someone who processes, has auditory processing problems, for sure. You would be differentiating that way. Or they could choose different TED Talks to listen to. I think we made assumptions about the table stations. I know I did. A good reminder to be a close reader and a critical thinker. Well, thank you, Stephanie. Yes, that's kind of where I was going. But there's, I definitely see the potential for both, because if students picked 2 of 3 stations, they would be picking their process. And then our last one is, as a transition or wait time routine, student pairs sign into WordWall on their devices and choose which game they'll use to review the lesson vocabulary. All games make use of the same vocabulary list, but vary in type of teaching matching task. The teacher circulates to assist as needed. So what's happening here for sure is an element of choice in process. Content is all the same. Okay, so there's definitely a choice. The scaffolding, is coming from the teacher, right? The teacher, it's the classic teacher situation where we're going around putting out fires. But the scaffolding isn't really obvious in this part of the routine. You know, it would have been a really, and because it's a transition or wait time routine, we can make assumptions that the students have done this before. But what about the student who never has? Where's the scaffold for that? So that's just something to consider. No, our thoughts was that pair work could be a scaffold. Absolutely, we're going to get to that. So peer support, 100%. Yes, love that. That is a great claim. Support it. So let me ask you to indicate with your thumbs up or thumbs down whether you feel like you walked away from that task with a little more, a chewy moment on the concept of scaffolding and differentiation. Just give me a little something in the chat from everyone if possible. What is your takeaway from doing that task? And Becky, that's a maybe to whether you got something chewy from it. And I'm really not looking for, you know, good Jayme. I'm really looking to see whether the process, even though it had a little technical glitch at the beginning, created at least a level of thinking that maybe you hadn't done quite as much before. So I'm looking at it. Thank you, Christine. And that was the other aspect, your peer support in that. That was my scaffold more than anything for you, was the fact that you had each other. You could not bulldoze through, that's not the word I want to say, power through any tech issues by using each other's supports. Oh, Carly, I love this one. I'm thinking about small tweaks that can make a big difference. Robert, my takeaway, include both scaffolding and student choice in all tasks. Well, I couldn't have asked for a better lead in to our break, because we're going to be talking about the fostering of agency that occurs when we highlight voice and choice and autonomy in our scaffolding and differentiation. So with that, it is time for your break. You actually have another 4 seconds. Feel free to stretch, walk around, go to your lesson plan and make some scaffolds, some differentiation. And I'm here if you have questions, but we'll come back in now 14 minutes and 37, 36, 35 seconds. Welcome back. If you would put in the chat what you chose to do during break. Did you get a snack? Did you pay attention to your body? Did you go for a walk? What all did you do during the break? Oh, coffee sounds lovely. I can smell it from here, Laura. Oh, you worked. Emails? Went outside. Good job. Bathroom break. Very good. Lesson planning. Whoa. Talk about a takeaway. Stretch break. Ate an orange. I'm trying to get that citrus. Paul, changing the laundry is great. You know, I think for some people who come into these, I often go into a webinar with a plan to clean my junk drawers or to fold my laundry or sort something. But in web shops, you don't really have that opportunity. So break is very critical. Who let the dogs out? Alicia. Okay, dishes, snack. Look at the differentiation in the tasks that people did during break. This is actually a way, if you are providing learners with different processes or tasks or proof of learning, sometimes asking people all the different things they do in a given time when everyone is given that time helps highlight the fact that we all have different needs. Oh, Heather, excellent, my heart. Cleaning up toys. Mary, I love that. Okay, and many text messages. Excellent, Stephanie. I talked on the phone with Gail and I texted, and I did not have sufficient coffee, but you won't blame me for that. So let's take a moment and think about learner agency. And this is going to be done independently. You have 2 more times where you're going to work with people. So I thought it'd be nice to differentiate our process, not to differentiate really, although there's a scaffold here, but to give you the option. And I guess it is a differentiation. You do not have to write in the chat, but it would be lovely if you did. I'm going to ask you to work with me with 1, 2, and 3 that you see on here to complete the sentences as I read them to you. You do not have to match exactly what the answers are, but they should make sense. So looking at number 1, we're going to really think about learner agency in connection to voice and in connection to scaffolding and differentiation. So we have a sense of agency when we feel of things that happen around us, when we feel that we can events. What do you think? I'll give you 30 seconds to write something in the chat. It's going to get shorter, but we'll start with 30 seconds. So number 1, in control or plan. Okay, we got a lot of in control, influence. Okay. Keep typing. Don't stop typing. This is how I know you're there. I can hear you breathing. Aware, in control. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Notice that in this case, I did not say you must match what I say, but I am asking you to make sense of this using your background. If I had learners, if we'd done something and then some content, and then I gave them something like this, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to match exactly, but the criteria would be that it has to make sense. Okay, well, let's see what it is. In control, those of you that said in control, those of you that said manage, when we feel we can, for manage events, right. And the other is influence. So this comes from the definition, but when we feel a sense and when we can plan, that also makes good sense. So you have the choice of different words to express what it is agency means. So just think for a moment, and I don't think you'll have to think more than a third of a second, how the learners, how adults in general in our country right now are feeling about their sense of agency. So it becomes so important for us to make sure that we foster that agency in the classroom. And again, I refer to the Coles to Newcastle. Yeah, as Becky says, none. But when learners are in our classrooms, and I can say that, when learners are in our classrooms, we want to make sure that they are always reminded that they have agency. We do not give learners agency, we foster it. So let's try number 2. Learner agency recognizes learners as participants in their own learning. Oh, I see a lot of the same word. Look at how you guys, oh, look at that. Major, primary, active and engaged. And you know, Heather, I think we want to recognize them as engaged, but their concept of active might not look like engaged to us. So that's just something to be aware of, I think, from a teacher perspective. So I also agreed with the active people, but think that primary and active and engaged. Individual, I'm not, Jacqueline, I'm not seeing that as much. If you want to explain a little bit more in the chat, but I think it's seeing them. I think what I could read from that is that individual, meaning that we're seeing them as individuals as well, and that they have their own needs. Okay, got it. All right, last one. This time, let's do a waterfall. No, actually, we'll do a waterfall on the very last one, because otherwise it gets too crazy. All right, so the first part of number 3, rather than on whether or not a learner has agency, we can more easily focus on an environment that will active intentional learner choice and confidence in those Okay, so we have assuming, fostering, promote situations, focus, designing, promote. Okay, we're getting a lot in here. I see a lot of focusing on and creating, promoting, don't want to step on the toes of those of you that are still thinking and typing, but I would like to move us. So designing, creating, that I can go with both of those in a moment, an environment that will support active, intentional learner voice and choice and confidence. So that support, what does that word translate into for you based on what we've been talking about? What does the word support correlate to in our web shop today? Anybody? Bueller? Scaffolding. Thank you so much, Melissa. And on all of you that have written afterwards. You read the first one and then everybody comes in after. Good job. Good job. So what we're talking about here is intentional learner voice and choice and confidence in those choices. We know that confidence is a huge, huge factor in adult learning. And the more we can foster learners' agency through their scaffolded ability to make choices and feel confident in those choices, the more we're supporting our learners and leading them to their own self-efficacy and autonomy. So sit back and relax. It's time for a micro lecture. Let that coffee run through you. We've talked about the difference between scaffolds and differentiation. If you never think deeply about that again, I'll be a little sad, but I understand. But what I hope you'll take away from this next section is the idea that when we're doing those two things in our lessons, when we're designing for difference, we are supporting and fostering our learners' agency, which can be summed up in voice, choice, and autonomy. So let's take a look. We use visuals, all right? Visuals, that is the adult teachers go-to for a lot of our learners. That it does make a connection. Unfortunately, for a lot of our learners, what we think is a clear visual is not. But when we have learners looking at a variety of visual input, not just pictures, right? We support their voice, their choice, and autonomy by providing access to meaning. So when they have meaning, then they can do the task. And maybe they can do the task more autonomously. When we are giving them visuals, we are giving them access to their expression. There's their voice, right? So a graphic organizer is a way of seeing, I can see my thinking. I can express my thinking to someone else. Same thing with mapping or sketches or sketching ideas out or using media. When we give them the visual to support their voice, choice, and autonomy by providing access to a proof of learning, a lot of times we'll ask, and I know the teachers and almost everybody I've ever had any contact with in Minnesota ABE has had an amazing awareness, much more so than in my part of the world, Los Angeles, has had well, California, but Los Angeles in particular, understanding of project and product and learner outcome beyond a quiz, just having something tangible. But that tangible thing needs visuals to scaffold learners' understanding of what it is they're supposed to do. So icons, sample products, choice boards, these are things that really support and scaffold for the learner to be able to make the choice to what they want to do. So as I mentioned, graphic organizers support thinking. It makes it comprehensible. It makes it visible. I'm sorry, it makes thinking and comprehension visible. And it's really terrific if you can do a scaffolded version of note-taking as well as graphic organizers, so that learners are not cast out to see that they have to put everything in, but you're prompting them. Eventually, obviously, you'd love for them to be able to do it on their own. That would be ideal, but they can decide when that time is right. Pardon me. I love charts. Charts are fabulous. Charts are really complex. And this is a particularly fun chart. Of course, it's 2023, so who knows what it is in 2026. But I know that in order for me to scaffold this chart appropriately, I'm going to look and see if there's another version of it. Maybe that makes it a little more visual. Or maybe I'm even going to go to Canva and pick 5 items. Is that 5? Yes, right? Yes. 5 items from the chart to have learners talk about. Canva is a really great tool for this, and it's free. Then we can provide the learners with templates to make their own charts. That was one of the things that I think some of you talked about with one of the routines, was that learners could make their own charts, but having a template for the different charts they want to make, a bar graph, a pie chart. I forget what the dot one is called. There is a name for it. If you remember, please feel free to write it in the chat. And so I think that I'm sorry, I was just checking the chat. I think that it's really valuable. Dot plot, thank you. I knew you'd come through. I think it's really valuable to know that charting is fabulous. It works for learners who have more mathy brains, but it also works for learners who have more visual brains, and that appeals to them. I know they've thrown out all the learning style stuff, but it's a way of allowing learners to differentiate what kind of graph they're going to do, but still scaffolding. Yeah, in a little bit. This one I really like a lot because it's mathy, but it's also pizza. So a lot of times we think about total physical response and physical demonstrations with English language learners. And I know that there are a lot of multilingual learners across ABE. So thinking of this as a math lesson, but you could also be doing this in ESL. Look, here's, I'm demonstrating and the students are doing it with me. So this plate has a pizza on it. You and 3 coworkers are hungry. Use your pencil to cut the pizza. 4 supervisors walk in, cut the pizza again. The supervisors eat half the pizza, shade 1/2, write mine on 1/4 of the pizza. You can tell that I like pizza. How much pizza is left? How much will each coworker get? So they're actually physically engaged with the language and the mathematical thinking. And that is a visual scaffold. It's a bodily visual, a physical scaffold, but it's visualizing it in your body. Scatter plot, yes, that's another one. So here's the one that we're really, if anybody in our group is working with English language learners, multilingual learners, this is the kind of thing that we're quite used to. Pick up the plate, put it at the center, pick up the napkin, smooth it out, fold it in half, put it next to the plate on the left. That kind of work with total physical response. There was a question before the break about the slides. You have access to all the slides, and there's some additional resources, and we'll put that link in at the end. But there's also a participant folder that will have that information in it as well. So that was visuals, and I've only scraped the top of the visual scaffolding and differentiation concept. But let's talk for a minute about stems and frames. Everybody who works in ELA, I bet you are all stems and frames people, because it really is such an amazing scaffold for learners. But let me just reiterate what they do and how they foster voice choice and autonomy. They provide language support by allowing learners to build accurate sentences or well-organized paragraphs. So even in fact, if they were going to give an argument or make a claim about why a particular word problem should be solved a certain way, the language support is there because it builds confidence for learners to focus on conveying their ideas rather than getting stuck on the form. And that lessens the cognitive load. So it lifts their voice and it builds their confidence. And eventually, as with all scaffolds, we are pulling it away bit by bit. And then stems and frames also increase language and literacy skills because you can regularly include academic language and formulaic phrases so that learners, they become part and parcel, they're chunks that learners are able to say based on, according to. These are things that I know you know very well. And if you pop over into Betsy's, which you please hold on and watch her recording, you would be hearing all about academic language. So this is an example for describing reasoning, could be mathematical. I think this is correct because this makes sense to me because I noticed that. So one pattern I see is, which helped me. That one pattern I see is great for grammar. Justifying an answer. All of these are stems and frames that can be applied across contexts, but they are in fact giving learners the language that makes them more confident when they are going outside the classroom to express their voice or choice. I really love the career one-stop videos. They're very hard. They're very fast. But if you give learners a sample writing frame for summaries that really, they can do it for any video. So they've got the choice, right? They could choose any career one-stop video, and they're being asked to identify what the work of the person includes, name the job, say what the work includes, what's the hardest part, and would they or would they not be interested in this career. So there's an example similar to the TED Talk concept, but it's scaffolded and it has choice. And they're talking about themselves and what's of interest to them. We've also got word banks. Raise your hands if you love a word bank. Yep. Even that is, yep. Lots of people love a word bank. I love a word bank. So word banks are a fabulous scaffold. And thank you, Daniel, for the applause for the word bank. It's not cheating. It's a wonderful, again, it's such a great tool because this is a classic English language instruction type of dialogue, right? And maybe there are 5 colors that the student has, that you've worked on at a low level. But why not give them as many colors as they want? Because they want to be able to say that color. And maybe all they want to say is blue, but maybe they want to say turquoise. This one doesn't have turquoise. So what I really, Karen, I think you were just raising your hand versus, yeah, I get it. What I really want to call out is that the choice here and the voice are kind of mixed in. The choice about a substitution dialogue isn't huge, but it is giving learners an opportunity to use their own words and say what they want to say to a degree. With math, identifying what the problem is asking them to do, what the important information is, a word box is fabulous for that. I love to use a word box when I'm having a student at an ELA or higher English language instruction look at a paragraph and analyze it. And I like to give them, let's say they're correcting something and they're finding the mistakes. I like to give them the language of the types of mistakes they're looking for. And then the all-time favorite, the expression banks. So when you've got discussions going on, posting these sentence stems, or if you have frames that become part of the discussion that you then are making sure that you're assessing learners on their use of it. So when you're walking around, tell students, I'm listening for one of these when you're expressing a preference, not just I like. And here we come up with, I'm sorry, but I don't remember who said this, but it was brilliant because it's on a slide, so it must be true, that peer-to-peer work is an incredibly useful way to foster learner autonomy because it really gets to it gets to foster learner agency because it really gets to learner autonomy. And cross-ability pairs and likability pairs, meaning that students who have the same level in the likability, students who have at differing levels of proficiency in the cross-ability. I know I said that all wrong. And something to consider with those kinds of learning pairs is that if there are roles in the group or in the pair, it really helps with the scaffold, because I know that I have to watch the time, or Sarah knows that she's going to have to take notes. But on top of that, we've got the language that they're going to practice as well. And in some cases, if it's not a language focus for the content, it could be the type of work, what they would say when they're summing up the problem, or when they're trying to reach consensus. So it becomes more about the interpersonal skill language. This is more about the role language. And where would I be without putting a little ed tech in our lives, which I'm going to do very shortly. But ed tech is a fabulous scaffold, and it can also be part of a differentiation mindset. So learners can go on a smartphone or they can have it on paper. I think one of you said that earlier about one of the routines is that they could approach it in different ways. What you see down here on the bottom is the Padlet. Let me just indicate this to you. This is the menu for Padlet. It looks a bit different now. Padlet and Sandbox are incredible tools for helping both differentiate which tool a learner can use. So this is so cool, but learners can type something and have the AI say it. They can audio record themselves. They can video record themselves. They can obviously take pictures and then narrate that or do a screen record. So there are a lot of ways on one ed tech tool to differentiate and to give learners the kind of choice about how they want to lift up their own voice. On the other hand, there are learners who are not there yet. So then we think about ways that they could do something like that using their phone, which I think you all are keen on. I'm just going to check the chat real quick to make sure. Yes, Daniel, you could do a word bank with numbers. Students like word banks. Yes, they do. And QR codes are a terrific way for learners to have autonomy in getting to the different places on their phones. So guess where we're going, what we're doing. No, don't guess, I'll tell you, because why should I put you through that? You're going to go to a Sandbox. It's one type of Padlet, and I'm going to just show you now. Okay. So these are different, similar to what you were doing on the Menti, but they're slightly different. A through F. These are instructional routines. And what I'm going to ask you to do is in your teams, you're going to take a look at these independently. And you're going to decide, let's say I look at A and I say, okay, I'm going to look and see how does it support learner voice and choice or autonomy? I'm just going to take a few minutes and think about that. Now, when you're on Sandbox, you have access to these tools over on the right. I have a problem with right and left. So if you wanted to write your ideas, you could type in something, let's say worksheet. Okay. And then the thing about you'll see when you play with it that you are able to, you won't be able to touch this. I've frozen that, but you can move things around. And if you don't have experience with this, you are in a breakout room, so you can certainly get support from your colleagues. There are also Post-it notes, which you'll be using in another task in a minute. Let me make sure I get out of here. So you will be looking at, let me get my instructions. Nope, this is not the right instructions. What happened to the instructions? Maybe they're here. Okay, I will be putting the instructions in there. It looks like they flew away. But you will be looking at the card on the left that matches your breakout room number. And there are right now, come over here and do it again. Right now, there are 19 cards. So I'm going to delete that. Don't go to this, after this card, you need to stop. So you're looking at your breakout room 1, you're looking for the number 1 right here on the card. And when you click on that card, you will be taken to card number 1. All the cards look the same. So you're going based on the room number of your breakout room, and then you're going to this card. You're spending time thinking about how one of these supports learner voice, choice, or autonomy. You're going to have about 4 minutes to think about that. And then we're going to broadcast into your room that it's time to discuss. And at that point, you're just going to tell each other what you thought. So that's why you have fewer people in your breakout room this time. So let me go to seeing you all. Okay, let's do some checking. In the chat, please write. Oh, it's tiny things. Yeah, when you get there. Actually, you know what? Let's have everybody go to, I'm sorry you're not seeing the demonstration. Let's do this. Liddy or Gail, would you put the link to the Padlet? Great. So let's get everybody on the Padlet. Don't go to, you're just looking at the first card on the Padlet. Just take a look at it so that you can see. You'll be able to see on the left all the different cards that are there, but they are of a number underneath. Okay, when you're there, please put a Y in the chat for yes, or a no in the chat with I'm not there. Great. I appreciate you all very much and your autonomy, because I had a lovely slide of directions that seems to have gone away. Okay, so it looks like many of you are on there. When you're in your breakout rooms, I'm sure you'll support each other in that wonderful peer-to-peer scaffolding if one of you is struggling. But what I'm asking you to do is to look at the card numbers on the left. You'll see 1 through 19. And when you're in your breakout rooms, you'll go to that card. That is your breakout room number. So I will be going around to make sure you're being helped. And all you are doing to start with is choosing choice. You're choosing A through F, one of those, and identifying for yourself how well that is supporting one of those things that I've listed up there: learner voice and or choice and or autonomy. So let's get you in there. I have a message that says not enough memory when I tried to open up Padlet. Oh, Helen, I'm so sorry. So Helen, if that's the case, what I will do, if anybody else has that problem, this will stay open in the main room, and so you can talk about it there. Lorna, you found it? Oh, it was at the very bottom.
I quickly took a screenshot of it at one point and copied it to my notes page. So,
oh, okay. Okay. All right. So I will pop that up into one of the cards for you to be able to see. But meanwhile, let's get you into your breakout groups. All you're doing is working solo to begin with. But if you have questions about how to get to the Padlet, or if you're not even able because your memory is out, just come back into the main room and you'll have it here to look at. All right. I'm going to open up the breakout rooms.
I'll open the breakout rooms, and just to note, we don't have a time designated on there because Jayme's going to control that. So just go ahead and work in there until you get that 1 minute countdown. Okay? Okay, I've got a lot of people here that need to be assigned. Let's see, Carly.
I wish I could help you.
That's okay, I got it. Julia, I will get you in there. Julie. Christine. All right, that's everyone.
Great.
Great. And let's see. That's good because I think people bop in and out, and that's why they end up there. Yeah, okay, every group has at least 4. So that's great.
I have Anne and Lori still.
Just came back.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. All right, so that's always a problem. I can put you in a different group real quick. Oh, okay, Anne just went in.
Oh, maybe they just didn't get out.
Who is it now that I'm looking at?
Lori.
Lori.
But maybe
oh, okay. Are you seeing anything, Lori? You just have to join.
I accidentally left without meaning to. I was multitasking. Sorry.
That's okay. Are you able to get back in?
Yeah.
Great.
I don't know do you put me back in or what do
I
I
can't
do?
put you back in. You have to rejoin. Otherwise, I can
Okay.
put you elsewhere.
It
Okay.
looks like room 18 only has 3 people in it, Gail. So if you want to put more people in there,
Where'd she go?
I don't know.
I wonder if she left the meeting.
What was her?
Okay, Mary, I'm going to put you in a smaller group here.
Room 8 also is smaller.
All right. Okay, what's that, Liddy?
Nope, I'm just telling you which ones were small. That's all.
Oh, okay.
I just
Yeah, I
trying
can
to-
see it once I
It's
get
just
on
big,
them.
such
Yeah,
a
it
big
looks
long
like some
list.
people lost.
Yeah.
Now it looks like pretty good. I don't see anybody in 3. Oh, yeah, I do. Room 8, but that's where Lori was. So maybe when she comes back, I don't know.
So
All right.
we have a lot of people in room 2. We have 6 in room 2.
Oh, no.
Oh, we have 5. We have 5. Sorry.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go around. Do you want, Lydia, are you in the mood or would you rather I just do it? I can do it.
What do we need to, what are we checking on?
We're just checking to see, to remind them that as soon as they have their, okay, first of all, we're letting them know that card 20 has the instructions.
Okay.
Hi, Anne. Do you
And
need to be put into a room? I'm wondering
No, I'm
if she...
kind of in between students, so no.
Oh, okay, got it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would just tell them slide 20 has the instructions if they are curious. And I'm running a little bit later because I went back and forth with that Padlet issue. So we are meant to be done with this at 9:40.
So are they just reading now or are they discussing now?
The idea is that they're reading, but if they are ready to discuss, they can discuss at any time. That's the information I'd like to give them.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
Okay, and Jayme, are you continuing? Are you going to still have the third breakout at this point, or are you?
Yes, we'll do the third breakout. Same people.
Okay.
Yeah. It won't be 10 minutes. It'll be shorter. That's all.
Okay, sounds good.
It should be okay because I figured that what I'll do is I'll spend more time in this one. And if not, I mean, we'll see. What I'll do is I'll take a temperature check when Lydia and I come back and see. So, Lydia, you're doing
sounds
odd,
good.
I'm doing even. Is that it?
And we're closing in 3 minutes, right?
No, we're not closing. They're going to discuss. They have
in 3 minutes. So basically, when they're done reading, they start discussing.
Exactly.
It looks like okay. So room 19 is doing that already.
Okay.
So I'll go into room.
Yeah, go into rooms where we see that they're not discussing. That's great.
I will go into the odd ones. You go into the even ones where people are not talking yet, right?
Sounds good. Yes.
Perfect.
Great. Thanks, you guys.
Okay.
I had to run into the restroom, sorry. Oh, you're muted.
Did you want to turn off the recording?
Yes, thank you. Oh, you know what? Wait a minute.
So you're back and you're wondering, why am I back? Why did you pull me from the warmth of my group, the community that I had built? We're having a big video, audio interruption. There we go. So I did what I'm sure we've all done in classrooms from time to time. I looked around and I said, oh dear, I need to scaffold this with a whole group approach, because many people were feeling the silence was a little hard and the tech was a little hard. And so why not bring it into a place where you can feel more confident about what we're doing? So I'm going to ask for people who chose A. I'm going to go ahead and share. I am sharing my screen. So I'll use the annotation tools from Zoom, I guess, to help us just be able to focus on one thing at a time. So did someone in our group choose A?
I chose A to do
Okay.
mine just because it was giving me some wonderful starter ideas of what I could actually use with my ESL class. I was telling the group that we, like at the beginning of the week, we always share what we did over the weekend. And I have several students that don't like to share. They don't like to, they're afraid of speaking English, whatever. And so they just said, I did nothing. I stayed home, whatever. So by giving them some questions to go on and then talking and just like with a partner rather than the whole group, hopefully that will get them to where they can answer, have more ideas of what to say. Yeah, I really like this idea. So
Lovely. Thank you. Does anybody else want to contribute on the A? The autonomy maybe, or we've got the learner voice coming up, and autonomy definitely in choosing which way to respond.
Teacher shares what he or she did over the weekend, and students like to hear about our lives, and it's also modeling what we encourage the students to do, to share about their weekend.
Terrific. Thank you so much. A great scaffold, making sure that there's a model. Who did a B? Did anybody do the B?
I did.
Okay. What did you think? Where did you see the scaffolding? Where did you see the autonomy, the choice, the voice?
Right. So, I kind of remembered, I think when you alluded to this earlier, that it might have even been better if the table stations were options for students to choose which one they wanted to go to, which would have increased their differentiation and, their voice in choose and their choice in the way that they wanted to answer. And of course, number one, matching words and pictures. Number two, completing sentences with target words are just kind of one answer, very more closed, thinking as far compared to open thinking, where number three is wide open, creative, increasing voice and choice and autonomy in many ways. So three seems like for a student who's confident and wanting to, use their voice more would be an option, maybe would be a nice thing. So.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, who did a C? Did someone do C?
I did.
Okay, please tell us what you were thinking. What were you thinking?
I thought that this one was great for voices, first of all, because we are talking opinions. We're talking about agreeing and disagreeing. And then also they have choices. So there's hot topics. They get to choose a topic with their team and then kind of propose the way that they feel about that and then work with the other teams to like either counterclaim and say like, no, that's not what we think, or, agree with another classmate's argument and explain why. So lots of choices and voices in this one.
And I would point out very, very strong relevance to the confidence learners need outside the classroom to have this control of language. How about D? Who did D?
I had D. Yes, so D also supports choice. Students can choose from 3 different topics and work on that individually. So also the autonomy is supported. And then when they get into teams and they get to compare the graphs and analyze, then it's their voice. So I think all those are represented in this one.
Terrific, thank you. And I'm going to check the chat just to make sure that I'm not disregarding some bon mots that have gone into the chat. Looks like we have 2 that have come up. Okay.
For D, sorry.
Yes.
I was just gonna say for D, just adding in a couple things, my own personal scaffolds if I was teaching this lesson. I would choose as a differentiation thing, I would say choose at least one. Because you're gonna have those quick students who get done super fast. So maybe they could try another graph. And then also when they're in their teams, I would give them sentence frames or stems so that they could discuss the data and analysis.
I think that's such an important concept. And I think very often that's the kind of work we have to think about ahead of time. That's harder to come up off the cuff. You can do it. We're skilled people, but that's where the intentionality of the scaffolds really makes a difference. A lot of times we have to differentiate on the fly and scaffold on the fly, but if we can have an awareness ahead of time, it will really make a difference. How about E? Anybody do an E?
I did E.
Okay, do you see autonomy in this?
Absolutely. So I chose this one, as I was mentioning to my group, because I feel like oftentimes in real life, we do have one thing we want students to do. Here it is, and we're going to explain it to students, but offering an alternate way for students to get the information that they need in order to complete the task, it just gives a lot of autonomy. Maybe they want to hear it in a different voice, not always just their teacher's voice. So it gives them that. Maybe you could also even have, maybe some people would want to do the QR code. Other people, maybe just a piece of paper, which has maybe some pictures on it, or maybe, just some steps in the process or something like that. But you're allowing people who feel like they need that little bit of extra, like, did I really get what she or he was talking about? It gives them the ability to go do that in private, or with a partner or something. So I thought it was good.
My experience is that, especially the years and years of beginning level instruction in English language learning, was that I would think I had given the most exquisite, detailed model and checked comprehension, and then I would set them off on their way and I'd hear behind me KD say. So I think that we as adults, we struggle with listening. And so if there in any way that we can provide more support and give that learner the feeling that there is additional support available. If you didn't get it the first time, we're going to help you. We're not testing every single minute. And then F, did anybody do the high set practice test? I would say, I'm going to just pop in here and say that there's autonomy in that they get to choose which resources they want. They go up to the teacher's desk and select the glossary or the sentence frames or the graphic organizer. They're not being handed them like the teacher who was handing out the number line for people. she was moving around or he was moving around the classroom. In this case, the teacher is saying, this is available to you, use it if you want. So that's a nice autonomous way or autonomy supporting way. And learners, again, are having a choice of how much they want to challenge themselves. Thanks so much for being part of that. And I appreciate your ability to flex, to come back into a whole group. The goal, and what seems to have thrown people, was to have quiet time, but within the breakout group. Because when we have constantly turn and talk to your partner, turn and talk to your partner, turn and talk to your partner, there are people for whom that is anathema. So if we can, even in a group setting, say, we have 2 minutes, this is a quiet time, read or write or do whatever you like. But I think in the online environment, it was a little less than, and I'm glad that you were flexible. I just want to take you through one other way of working with voice, choice, and autonomy, and that is the choice board. And as I say, you will have these slides, but choice boards really do help learners because they allow for differentiation of learning in any topic or content area. They promote learner motivation and commitment and ownership. And learners choose according to their strengths, interests, needs, and goals. You want to challenge students who are always going maybe for the one type of process or one type of outcome to maybe try something else. But as long as they are achieving the goal, that choice should be honored. And it provides for different ways to learn as well. So I don't know if you know about this, but to me, this is the biggest takeaway you will have from our whole session, which is the Carnegie Corporation's 2025 Immigrant Honorees. It goes back multiple years. So if you know about this, give me a thumb. If you don't know about it, you don't have to give me anything. You could just say thank you. This is an example of 3 of the honorees. And in the choice board, I'm giving students a choice of which one they want to read about. I would give them a scaffold of writing about this. So it's their biography, it's what they've accomplished. And as I mentioned, it goes back many years. So you have a choice of multiple biographies of immigrants who have made a tremendous impact on our country. What a concept. You can do a choice board that gives you watch, read, and listen. So you're talking about different processes. And in this case, these are all linked. So students would watch this video, or they would read about this, or they would listen about that. And then the third one that is a product based, this is giving them the choice at the end to write an article or make a poster or conduct an interview. But if you notice, the links in this choice board are scaffolds. So there's an example, or there's a tutorial, or there's a template. So it's a one-stop shop for differentiation and scaffolding. I don't recommend doing it every lesson. That's that way madness lies, but it's definitely a cool way to think about an end of a unit or even an end of a couple of units that allows students to have more say and autonomy in their work. And of course, pairs or groups could choose together. So we're not doing this. I know you're very sad. So we're going to just take a moment to remember the difference between differentiation and scaffolding. Differentiation refers to the idea of modifying instruction to meet a student's individual needs and learning preferences, and scaffolding refers to modifications you make while designing and teaching lessons that allow all students to be successful in learning the same content. So there is a difference. They do cross over. My hope is that as a result of thinking about this today, you will feel more confident about raising your learners, fostering your learners' agency, and calling out their voice choice. Elaine, you make choice boards, or you go to the resources that I have, or you Google choice boards. Choice boards are very K-12 that they generally have like 15 choices. I think 2 or 3 is just great for us. I'm a big fan of the 2 or 3 option choice board. But if you Google choice boards, you'll see a lot of examples, and there are some in the resources. So if I wanted to do a choice board for you today, lucky yous, I could say, please write and record a speech on the value of scaffolding that includes key ideas, or email a colleague to describe basic scaffolding, or do a poster that illustrates basic scaffolding. So that's a way that I could differentiate for your proof of learning. And I'm going to ask you to think about, because we have done some thinking already today, what you have thought about and worked on and discussed today. And know that this slide deck is available to you. I know that Gail is going to put the link to the, I guess you put a link into the next, okay, yeah. There are links to the slides in the slides, but also in the chat. And if you could, there's an evaluation that will go out to everyone, I believe. And it's really important for all of us to know, everybody who's presenting, to know what worked and didn't for next time around, but also for you to think more about what this brought to you, what it lifted up. So if you wouldn't mind, as you leave, your exit ticket at 12 o'clock your time, 10 o'clock mine, is to say one word or two that you're taking with you. And my dog is really sad it's over. You probably can't hear him screaming.
Thank you so much, Jayme. It was an excellent session. I'm going to stop the recording while people are continuing.
Oh,